Good morning. It's Tim and Tammy time. And today, Tim's at work, and I'm going to be telling a story. You know, we did this series, a Disappearing South series, and a lot of times, well, very often, myself or somebody else will say, if these walls could talk. Well, these walls are going to talk because this is my story, one of my stories from when I lived in this house. You know, recently we went to South Carolina and we visited the house that I lived in when I was 10 years old. And this is a story that actually happened. It's a little embellished, you know, because as stories go, but still, true story, truly happened to me. And I'm going to read it because I like the way it is written. And then y'all let me know what you think. And if I do that, it's because I'm reading it off the screen and the screen might just disappear. Anyway, this story is called A Foggy Mountain Woodswomen. A cold, steady rain fell. I was following my aunt through the woods in Tigerville, South Carolina on the first really cold day of autumn. A cold front had rushed through the night before, and we had awakened to roaring winds that rolled through the hollers, howling with delight while sweeping through the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. That morning, just as cheerful as a chipmunk in summer, my aunt had awakened me with these terrible words. Let's go get some wood and build a fire. I shivered and slipped further under the brown and green corduroy quilt my grandmother had so lovingly made for me. She lived in Florida at that time, but remembering her years in the snowy hills of Virginia, she had worked all summer to make 4 heavy quilts to keep our little family warm. It's cold and raining, I whined. Go back to bed. We had missed the memo about getting our firewood before it got cold. Really, we were completely out of place in the hill country. Never before had we lived in a house with not one, but 4 fireplaces. That probably should have been our first clue that we were out of our element and definitely not in South Georgia anymore. We had moved into this house at the beginning of summer, and we had spent a lot of time singing the praises of lower temperatures in the midst of a heat wave in July. There's always a breeze blowing. It's always at least 10 degrees cooler here than it is in Spartanburg. We just love living in the foothills. And we did. It was great while it was hot. The price was right, free. My daddy was a preacher, and his small congregation was on the poor side. However, one sweet little old lady owned 2 houses and offered to let us live rent-free in the older one. We didn't even have a water bill since the creek in the backyard came from a natural spring. How much better could it be than no rent and water bill to pay? I won't mention the squirrels, birds, rats, or any of the other wildlife that wanted to share this good deal with us, but they were there. They mostly kept out of sight during the daytime, but boy, what a fuss they put up sometimes at night. I got out of bed, wrapped my quilt around me, and rummaged through my $10 yard sale dresser with the Mork and Mindy bubblegum card stickers pasted on the side. Not looking for style, but instead for warmth, I dressed in sweatpants, an old LSU sweatshirt, along with a toboggan hat and gloves. It wasn't pretty, but I was warm. The terrifyingly narrow, steep staircase, which had been built more than 50 years earlier, led down to a wide hall that ran the length of the house. Built before World War II on over 100 wooded acres, our house was almost the oldest on our road. The only one that had stood longer than ours was the one-room log cabin on the ridge above us where our kind benefactor had been born. As I started for the door on that cold, foggy day, the smell of bacon came wafting down the hall, teasing me mercilessly. Mama was in the kitchen at the back of the house, probably wrapped tight in her blue housecoat, standing in front of the stove to keep warm while holding my little brother Eric. Can I eat first? Another whine escaped my chapped lips. After we get some wood. Suddenly I wondered aloud, where's Daddy? I was thinking he should really be cutting down trees, not us. My aunt, more like a sister to me, was 20 years old with long brown hair and pretty brown eyes. "He left early to look for work," she said. Out into the foggy, rainy, cold world she led me, and soon, with the new, shiny silver bow saw between us, we were attempting to cut down a small tree about 4, maybe 5 inches in diameter. I really wish we'd had a video camera. It was, in my memory, a comedy of errors from beginning to end. First, we had never cut a tree down in our lives. Second, my hands were cold, clumsy, and wet. Not a good combination when one is trying to work in conjunction with another using a bow saw. As a result, I kept losing my grip on the saw. I wanted to shout, "Heat comes out of the furnace! Duh!" After nearly 2 hours of battle, with the tree holding the lead most of the time, our struggle finally ended, and we were rewarded with what amounted to 8 pieces of soaking wet wood. It was a battle of wills, and through much perseverance, otherwise referred to as hard-headedness, we built our first of many smoky fires in that wood-burning stove. Today it's 58 degrees, wet and windy. This is the memory that always comes back to me on the first really cold day of autumn. Anytime I smell a fire and think it might be nice to have a fireplace again, I smile and think, only if the wood is already cut, and I can fall back on the central heat I have been blessed of God to be able to afford. So that's my story of the Foggy Mountain Woodswomen. My aunt and myself. She was 20, I was 10. And it was a good thing Mama was at home, because fact is we'd never started a fire either, so actually she started the fire. We just supplied the wet wood. And we did learn after that to go out and get the wood before the rain and the cold came. Anyway, the house that we went and visited in South Carolina, this is where I lived when that happened. It's the only house that I can remember living in where we had to cut wood for fires. We had 4 fireplaces. We had a wood burning stove insert in one of the fireplaces, and it was there that we had most of our fires. It had a blower, and it was electric too, so it kind of blew out the warm air. So when it was cold, all of us moved down into just 3 rooms in that house so we could stay warm, because it was cold. It was nice in the summertime, nice and cold. It was cold in the wintertime. Anyway, that's my story for today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching. And we love y'all.